Christina Sell, and this is a segment on progressive techniques for handstanding. How to introduce handstands for the raw beginner, all the way up to how to skid away from the wall and learn how to kick up to a handstand in the middle of the room. So we're just going to go through it, and the main thing that we want to do is build these progressive stages into our teaching and into our practice so that we proceed with confidence at each stage. One of the big downsides of handstanding for the new student is that it's so scary. And what can happen is we get something called a fear complex that gets built up, and the student will make several attempts that they're not successful at. And all of a sudden, it gets scarier and scarier, failure starts to come, and it starts to be this self-fulfilling, scary and failing process. So we want to avoid that for ourselves as practitioners. We certainly, as teachers, want to steer our students more and more in the direction of success and build upon small successes over a long period of time to develop confidence and for the handstanding work to be an empowering process rather than a demoralizing process for our students. Okay, so all of the handstanding builds from upward hands, a pose called Urdhva Hastasana. Starting with sleepwalking arms, I teach students to lift their chest, to take the head of their arm bone back, and to stretch their arms up over their head. This is Urdhva Hastasana, and it's the same basic shape for handstanding. Once they're in Urdhva Hastasana, we're going to teach them how to press their palms energetically forward, take their arm bones back more, lift their chest, and then stretch fully. So even in upward hands, a new student can be learning all of the basics for what they need to be able to do in the handstand itself. Yet they're in their normal relationship with gravity, developing their strength and their proprioceptive capacity. Upward hands, awesome pose. Really, next pose, so similar to that as we learned that in tabletop, on those same basic actions on all fours. You lift your chest, take your arm bones back. Make sure a student can do that with their arms straight. Then, this is a nice gateway to downward facing dog pose. We'll turn their toes under, lift their hips up and back. Again, similar shape, upward hands. So I look a student to learn this, then downward facing dog pose, and work up to a 30-second hold, and once they can do a 30-second down dog, then we work for a minute-long time in down dog. And that might be the peak pose. I'm teaching down dog that day, but as a teacher, I'm thinking for handstand down the road. Okay, once the students have good, strong down dogs, they could do several 1-minute-long downward-facing dog poses. I know that they have the strength and the upper back mobility to progress along the ride towards handstand. So I start to teach them about the upside-down position using the L at the wall. So here I am, I've got my toes under behind me. I lift my hips up to a down dog shape at the wall. Teach the student to lift one leg up to the height of their hips, to look at their hands, and to step up to this L-shaped position at the wall. What's so fantastic about the L shape at the wall is there's no momentum used. The student gets used to the upside down position, the inverted position in gravity, and over time, confidence that builds there starts to build familiarity with the position so that when the student starts to turn their whole body into a weight-bearing handstand, they already have some confidence built, they're familiar with the position, and we're diminishing fear while building confidence. And that's the whole strategy that we want to use by these progressive techniques. Okay, so in any given class, I might have someone doing upward hands, another person doing tabletop, another person doing down dog, and another person doing L. Once L comes along, I teach something called the scissor kicks. From tabletop, they lift their hips up. And it's a very simple step in and a switch of the legs in the air. I make a joke. At first, it's going to look like this. Over time, it starts to look like that. So the refinement and the big challenge of this scissor kick work is to keep your arms straight and to have students keep their legs straight and engaged and get just some sense. What we're doing now is putting motion into the position of upward hands, weight bearing and motion, and learning the body awareness of how to do that with straight legs while they get a little bit of just time in the position. So that's its own goal. Even experienced students can work on that, where the new students might be just catching a little air. They might be in the same room with experienced students being quite graceful and putting as much time in the air as they can. But handstanding for that one is not the goal. Just the scissor kicks are the goal. Okay, so that's its own work. Give that as an assignment. Another really great thing that builds straight from there is once they've got the scissor kick, I start to use this technique we call ding the bell. I got this from my friend Darren Rhodes. You have to imagine that your bell, the wall, is like a bell. It's got a sound, and I teach students how to ding the bell. Like your scissor kick. Ding. 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 And that's it. No pressure to kick to the wall for handstand, just the goal to get the heel to the wall. Then, well, it only follows logically. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. Get the point? Ding dong, stay. Ding dong, stay. That's going to keep people pretty busy. But there they are. Ding dong, then ding dong, stay. All right, so if that progresses a student along, they don't need any more modification for that. You can move on from that point. But sometimes getting to the wall for the ding doesn't happen. Certainly not the ding dong, and we need to go back to using a bolster, and this is a really great strategy as well. Put a bolster right here at the wall, and with the bolster right here at the wall, I have to make sure I check my placement. I got my hands on either side of the bolster. I'll need to tuck my head so that the back of my head hits the bolster. And this will help the students stay fuller in their midsection. And I have them rock back and forth just a moment so they know that the bolster's there. Then they step in, and here they can do ding, ding, ding. You got it. Ding dong. And so on. Sometimes some momentum can be helpful. And we almost have to mimic a kind of cartwheeling action with this bolster. My hands were right here on either side of the bolster, and we start to teach this hands up, leg up, foot down, hands down position. And I teach that as its own separate stage. Foot up, leg up, hands up, foot down, hands down. And we put that together with the work of the bolster. Foot up, hands up, foot down, hands down, ding dong. And we use momentum to get into the position. Truly, you're going to have to be a little bit on the lookout, because for most students, the common misalignment of that is that they won't have a coordination. They'll lift a leg up, they won't use their arms, something will go wrong. And one of the best things that this really works the best is when it's coordinated. Foot down, hands down. The timing has something to do. So if you look at your students and you don't see their arms up, and you see the foot down and going in like that, it's just not the same. Okay, so there we are. We've gotten to the wall for handstand. Or, honestly, I'm never afraid in a class to have the people who can work on handstand up at the wall on handstand, and the people who can't work on handstand are working on getting to the wall on handstand. Because there's how to approach the pose, how to get up into the pose, how to stay in the pose, and how to refine the pose. And so when we have mixed level classes, we just have to make our peace with people at different stages of every single pose. But handstand tends to have a lot of pressure associated with it. So our job, I think, as teachers is to inspire, but also to minimize the pressure that's counterproductive. So let's say students are at the wall for handstand. Big task next is to put some time into the wall, holding it at the wall. So work for those 30 seconds at the wall, and then come down and rest. And then go back up, 30-second holds. Work to a minute. And really big goal, really important goal is 2 minutes at the wall for just the strength-building endurance of being upside down in that position. So timings is a really next logical step in this progression. Okay, once we've got timings, here's a really great way to work on this handstand balance away from the wall. To be pretty close, less than 6 inches away from the wall. Ding dong. Cue goes like this. Separate your legs to the distance of your outer hips. Doesn't have to be wide, it's fairly narrow. Squeeze your knees, scoop your tailbone, rejoin your legs. Okay? Make sure the student is looking at their hands, then push down and stretch both heels up the wall as far as you can. Just the full stretch is the first step, then keeping both feet together, bring both feet off the wall, and use the stretch and extension through the shoulders, the stretch and extension through the spine to bring both feet off the wall at the same time. You don't have to lower down, although that's its own separate drill. Taking both feet off the wall and lowering down. Okay, so that's a really great way to work away from the wall once you've got the wall. Another tip for once you're at the wall to work away is to keep one heel on the wall and bring one leg just a little bit in front, and then stretch up and hold with your feet a little bit apart until you can bring them back together. Okay, there's a lot of different drills that could go on for a whole other video on just ways to use the wall to come off or find balance. But once you've got a sense of balance from the wall, the next big trick is how do we kick up into the middle of the room without using the wall to catch us? Well, we're going to use the wall to wean us away from the wall. Remember your dings. Just, if you can imagine what happened from the side view of that ding, is my hands were here, and my ding took my heel beyond my hands to this shape at the wall. Ding. And my lower leg was quite a bit lower. And that's the place that we're trying to catch ourselves in to find the balance at that point before rejoining our legs. So, remember the ding exercise. We take ourselves about an arm's distance away from the wall. Then I have a near split. A big split's not the point, just getting a sense of distance where I know that if I kick too hard and I miss my goal, the wall's going to get me, so I'm not scared. I have confidence. Once we get too scared in anything on life, on our mat or off the mat, what happens is our higher reasoning goes out the window and we start to function from the reptilian brain. It's not the prettiest part of who we are, and it's not the place where we can make good choices. So we want to diminish the amount of fear present so we can make higher choices, even down to like how are we going to use our hands and navigate the posture. So I've got my arm's length distance, like so. But what I try to do is not use it on this next go round. And I try to catch myself at the ding. Ding. Dong. Stretch. And those come together in some of those different component parts in the progression. Okay, so this can be part of your own practice. Any one of these could be just another trick in your bag of tricks as a teacher to offer as modifications or as progressions of your own classes, either in one particular class or stretched out over 6 months to a year, depending on the level of the class and what's appropriate for your students. Okay, have fun with that. Namaste.